As Luffy, Nudius, Sanji, and Yasuku would follow behind Johnny, Usopp, and Zoro as they made their way towards Arlong Park, Yasuko would explain to the group what he knew about the Arlong pirates. How not too long ago, roughly about 10 to 15-ish years, they had come to the East Blue and had been causing massive waves in the eastern seas. Of course, Nudius had been familiar with the stories of the Arlong pirates, always being up to date on the world news and things of that nature. Luffy would listen half in, half out, to which, of course, to Nudius' annoyance, he would tell his young ward that he should really pay attention to the paper when it comes by. Of course, Luffy, never being one to care for such things, would rather just listen to Nudius read the paper, and if anything interesting ever came across, he would make sure to listen attentively. Well, in a roundabout way of saying, Arlong is a dangerous fishman. Fishman? You've told me about that. I mean, they can't be that dangerous. Aren't they like our cousins of the sea or something? Something along those lines. Although fishmen and Atlanteans have never really seen eye to eye on many things. While we are in a way joined by the blood of the sea, we are just as much divided in the way we go about handling things. The oppression of fishmen can't be understated, at least when compared to that of the Atlanteans, though. Yeah, but, Sanji would say, it was the Atlanteans who ended up dying in the Great Cataclysm, though, not the fishmen. Yes, but even still, hostilities have always remained strong. Even for the few Atlanteans that may exist in the world today, if they ever come across a fishman, chances are they're likely to trade blows instead of working together. It's a shame. There was once a time when the fishmen and the Atlanteans were able to live together peacefully side by side, although unfortunately, times seem to change, and so too do the hearts of many. Anyway, Yasuku would say, Arlong is one of the most dangerous pirates of the East Blue. He's not someone to be taken lightly. He's very powerful. It's been said that he survived the worst of the worst. It's said that he was even able to make it through the Grand Line. Really? Luffy got excited about this. He could feel himself trembling as Sanji would set down the plates of food that he had made for everyone. No point charging in on an empty stomach. Luffy would devour his immediately, and everyone following along as they prepared. In the meantime, Zoro and his group weren't having the best of luck. For one, Zoro had gotten captured by the fishmen that they had been spying out when Johnny and Usopp ditched him unexpectedly. Although, much to Zoro's surprise, Nami may not have been as bad, at least not as bad as what they would have expected, as even though he had been captured, she had managed to get back the one sword he had in his possession, giving it to him and telling him to leave and to never return. Of course, Zoro would take the opportunity to escape with Nami's help, and Nami would have to find another way to prove her loyalty. It came unexpectedly when she had Usopp cornered next to a body of water, and seemingly shot him right into it. For Arlong and the Arlong pirates, this was more than enough. It showed at least that she hadn't gone soft, and she was willing to kill when the time came. Of course, Johnny, not knowing the full context of what happened, by the time he was able to meet back up with everyone else, he would tell them what he saw. Luffy, of course, didn't want to believe it. He couldn't believe that Nami would do something like that, but still it left the others to have cause for pause, although Sanji was still championing for her innocence, although that was more so of his chivalry as a man and wanting to believe in the nature of a woman. Of course, though, their theories would be proven correct, as Usopp would arrive not too long after, revealing that Nami had faked shooting him, although she had warned that they leave. Of course, they had to figure out where they were in the first place. And after some help from the locals, they were able to learn they were in Kokoyashi village. And by chance, they had managed to come across someone who was very close to Nami, that being Nami's older sister, a woman named Nojiko. Nojiko would bring them in, as they seemed to be looking for Nami, and she asked what relations they had to her. Luffy explained that she had agreed to join their crew. Nojiko would simply pour them all some tea as she shook her head. She would have to explain to them the truth of her sister, a dark truth. Nojiko would explain to them that in all likelihood she was only using them to get their money, but it wasn't out of malice or anything of that nature. She would tell them the history of Kokoyashi village, how in the beginning things were peaceful, how Nojiko herself and an infant Nami were taken in by a woman, Bella Marie. She was a former Marine, and finding the two orphaned girls, she took them in as her own and began raising them as her own daughters. And together, the three lived as a family for a time. However, when Arlong's crew came into the mix, that's when everything changed for the worst. Arlong imposed a tax. It would be 100,000 berries per adult and 50,000 berries per child. Anyone who couldn't pay would be killed, regardless of their age. When the time came for them, despite Bella Marie's efforts, she was unable to fend off against Arlong's crew. Having all three of them pinned down, Bella Marie only had 100,000 berries. The only thing she could afford was paying for the two children's lives. She did so at the cost of her own. Ever since then, Nami had been taken in by the Arlong pirates due to her skills in map making. As such, Nami had worked closely with the Arlong pirates ever since, hoping and trying for the last 8 years to try to get back the freedom of the village. She had hoped that if she could fulfill Arlong's deal of getting 100 million berries, then Arlong would free Kokoyashi village. That's why she swindled, stealed, and took everything that she could from every pirate crew that she came by. And after all that time, after all that effort, Nami just seemed to have enough. For Nami, she knew that this day was going to come, that this was going to be the day that her village would be free, and she could finally put all of this behind her. However, as if a cruel twist of fate had suddenly strewn in, dashing out the last few bastions of hope, a crooked Marine officer who was working in Arlong's payroll confiscated all the money that Nami had stolen over the years in order to buy back one of Arlong's forgivenesses for the village. In doing so, Nami no longer had enough. Of course, Arlong was aware of all of this. Nami pleaded with him. She begged him. She had brought all of the money just like she was supposed to. She had done everything right. It wasn't her fault that the money got taken at the last minute. If Arlong wanted to, he could easily take it back from the Marine. It was his. Arlong stood before the people, his crewmen standing by his side. His right-hand man, one of the more beastly of the fishmen, known as King Shark. He towered over Nami and the others, looking at them menacingly, and everyone backing away. No one would dare stand to Arlong, but even if they tried, they wouldn't have the chance to get to him, because King Shark would rip them apart. Nami girl, I've known about your escapades for a long time. I've been keeping tabs on you and what you've been doing out there in the seas. You lied, you swindled, you stole from everyone you came across. Burnt I don't know how many bridges. I gotta say, You're a good hand to have, a good map maker. Now tell me, why do you think I would give that up so easily? What? Nami, you could bring me back 100 million billion zillion berries. It wouldn't have amounted to a damn. I wasn't gonna free your village nor let your people go. No. You don't understand how this works. You think I make deals with humans? You think I fraternize with humans? That's what you think? You amuse me. You amuse my crew. So we keep you around. But let me make this perfectly clear. You are not in control of this situation. I am. I'm the head honcho. I'm the master of the East. Consider yourself in my service on a more permanent basis. But if you ever come across any treasure or anything like that, feel free to dump it my way. It's the only thing keeping you and these pathetic villages alive. You should be grateful for my infinite mercy. Because if I had it my way sometimes, I'd rip every single one of you pathetic waste of space. I would destroy this entire island and not even bat an eye. And my boy here, King Shark, he gets mighty hungry. But by all means, keep on, Nami, keep on. Nothing's gonna change. Now, me and my crew are going to go and have a party. I'll expect my tributes by the end of the week. Otherwise, you know what'll happen. But we don't. You don't have anything. Are you sure? That'd be a hot dogging shame. If you don't have anything, we don't have to wait. We could start now. Nami fell to her knees as Arlong and his crew left, laughing and strolling on by. The anger, the resentment, the feeling of hopelessness finally washed all over her. Not only had she lost all the money that she had fought, scratched, and clawed for, but now in just a short time, everyone was going to die. It didn't matter how far she traveled. She couldn't get the money needed to cover for everyone's debt. As Nami fell to her knees, holding a knife in hand, she looked to her left shoulder, seeing the Arlong Pirate's tattoo that had been marked on her. In anger, she raised her hand, stabbing her shoulder over and over again. The villagers, seeing enough, they decided that they were going to fight back against Arlong, even at the cost of their lives. They couldn't bear to see her this way. If they were going to die, they were going to die on their feet rather than cowering on their knees. By the time Luffy and the rest of the crew arrived, they saw Nami in the state she was in. Luffy grabbing hold of her hand before she could stab herself any further. She looked up to Luffy, yelling at him to leave her alone, kicking back the dirt towards him. Luffy, however, stood there, not changing and not batting away for a second, before Nami, looking up at him tearfully, would ask to please help her. Luffy would pick up Nami into her arms, holding her as he made his way towards a small well of water. He drew up some of the water and held it himself, holding his hand next to hers, as their hand was in the bucket of water. The water would rush from Luffy's hand straight to her, the water cooling over the wounds as he would take some bandages and wrap it up before taking his straw hat and placing it on her head. For Nami, she hadn't known Luffy very long, but she knew one thing. She knew how much he valued that straw hat more than anything else in the world. And the fact that he had trusted her with it said a lot. Luffy, with his trident on his back, would tell the others to follow. Usopp, Nudius, Sanji, and Zoro, all following the orders of the captain. As they made their way, Johnny and Yasuku had gone ahead, standing at the doorway to Arlong Park, not allowing them to enter in. The villagers were ready for a fight with Arlong, but the two swordsmen had stopped them there in their tracks, because they knew that the one who would cause liberation was coming. They saw off in the distance Luffy joined by the others. As he made his way to the door, Johnny and Yasuku looked on with a smile on their face. Burn that image into your heart and minds, because today is the day of your liberation. He is the one that will free you from your torment. Luffy took a hold of the trident. With a simple spin, he threw it directly towards the doors of Arlong Park. When the trident made contact with the large stone doors, it shattered the stone immediately. Arlong had been sitting on his own throne, the trident zooming right past him, shattering the glass of wine that he held in his hand, before the trident was pinned to the wall that bore the Arlong flag. As the smoke cleared and the dust settled from the destroyed door, Luffy made his way through the smoke as he looked up towards Arlong. You're Arlong, right? Captain of the Arlong Pirates? I am. And who wants to know? My name is Monkey D. Luffy, Captain of the Straw Hat Pirates. Two things are about to be made very clear. First, Nami is no longer with you. She's a part of my crew. And if you mess with my crew, you mess with me. And second, because you mess with my crew, I'm gonna kick your ass. This concludes One Piece King of the Sea, What If Luffy Was Aquaman, Season 1, Part 5 of the East Blue Saga. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video as we continue What If Luffy Was Aquaman, Season 1, Part 6. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time.